You tell yourself that you are an independent spirit who walks through life unbothered by the opinions of the sheep. You tell yourself that you enjoy your solitude and that you are an introvert who recharges in the quiet of your own mind. You tell yourself that you don't need a tribe and that you are strong enough to walk the path alone. But you are lying to yourself. You are terrified. There is a deep primal screaming in the basement of your subconscious that starts the moment you walk into a crowded room and realize nobody is looking at you. There is a chemical panic that floods your veins when you see your friends hanging out without you on social media. You are not an independent spirit. You are a biological machine designed for dependency. And the fear you feel when you are excluded is not an emotional weakness. It is a survival alarm. It is the same alarm that rings when you are suffocating or freezing to death. Your brain does not distinguish between a broken heart and a broken leg. To your nervous system, being ignored is exactly the same as being dead. This is the dark science of ostracism. It is the oldest and most lethal weapon in the human arsenal. It is the invisible knife that we use to carve the weak out of the herd. It is the mechanism that keeps you compliant, keeps you quiet, and keeps you in line. And tonight we are going to dissect the anatomy of loneliness. We are going to look at why the most powerful man in history crumbled into dust when he was left alone on a rock. We are going to expose the glitch in your brain that makes you a slave to the approval of strangers. And we are going to answer the question that haunts you in the middle of the night. Why does silence hurt more than violence? Welcome to the anatomy of isolation. To understand why you fear being alone, you have to strip away the illusion of modern civilization and look at the raw architecture of the human brain. You think you are living in a world of individuals, but your brain is still living in the Pleistocene era. Imagine a vast frozen tundra at night. The wind is howling. The temperature is 40 degrees below zero. In the center of this darkness, there is a single campfire. Around that fire is your tribe. Inside the circle of light, there is warmth. There is food. There is protection. Inside the circle, life is possible. Outside the circle, there is only death. There are predators in the dark. There is hypothermia. There is starvation. For millions of years, being cast out of the circle was a death sentence. It was not a social inconvenience. It was a biological termination. If you were ostracized, you died. Therefore, nature had to design a warning system to prevent you from getting kicked out. It had to make social rejection feel painful. Not just sad, it had to be agonizing. It had to be intolerable. So nature did something efficient. It didn't build a new brain system for social pain. It hijacked the system it already had for physical pain. This is the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. This is the part of your brain that lights up when you break a bone or burn your hand. But if I put you in an MRI machine and I show you a picture of your ex-lover, or I show you a group of people excluding you from a game, the exact same part of the brain lights up. The brain processes social rejection as physical injury. This is why we use physical metaphors to describe it. You hurt my feelings. You broke my heart. It was a slap in the face. These are not metaphors to your neurons. They are literal descriptions of the electrical signals firing in your head. You are wired to feel the loss of connection as a threat to your physical existence. But the biology goes deeper than just pain. It goes to the very chemistry that keeps you calm. We now know that social connection stimulates the release of endogenous opioids. These are your body's natural painkillers. They are chemically similar to heroin or morphine. When you are held by a mother or laughed with by a friend, your brain releases these opioids, and you feel safe. You feel warm. This is why we say that love is a drug. It is literally a drug, and ostracism is the withdrawal. When you are isolated, the opioid flow cuts off. Your body enters a state of cold turkey withdrawal. You feel restless. You feel anxious. You feel a literal drop in body temperature. Studies have shown that people who feel lonely actually perceive the room temperature to be colder than it is. This is your body remembering the Ice Age. This is your body preparing to freeze to death outside the circle. This is why the silent treatment is so devastating. It forces the victim into a chemical detox that they cannot control. It is biological warfare waged without touching the enemy. The most terrifying example of this destruction is found in the life of the greatest conqueror in human history, Napoleon Bonaparte. In 1815, Napoleon was the master of Europe. He was a god of war. He commanded armies of hundreds of thousands. Men threw themselves in front of cannonballs for him. He lived on the roar of the crowd. His ego was a planet that had its own gravity. But then came Waterloo, the defeat, the capture, and the British realized they had a problem. They couldn't kill him because he would become a martyr. They couldn't put him in a prison in London because he would escape. So they decided to do something crueler. They decided to ostracize him. They sent him to Saint Helena, a volcanic rock in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean, 5,000 miles from anywhere, a place of wind and rain and rats. But the geography wasn't the torture. The torture was the social strangulation. Napoleon arrived on the island with a small entourage of generals who chose to go with him. But the British governor, Hudson Lowe, implemented a strict protocol of isolation. Hudson Lowe was a petty bureaucrat, a man terrified of his prisoner. He decided to break the emperor not with chains, but with etiquette. He stripped Napoleon of his title. He ordered that no one could call him emperor or sire. He could only be called General Bonaparte. This seems like a petty insult, but it was a calculated psychological strike. It was an erasure of identity. Napoleon refused to answer to General. He said, "They may call me what they like, but they cannot prevent me from being myself." But he was wrong. Without the reflection of others, he could not be himself. Hudson Lowe restricted his visitors. He censored his mail. He surrounded the house called Longwood with sentries who watched him constantly but never spoke to him. Napoleon was living in a glass cage. He was visible but untouchable. The war of etiquette began. Napoleon would dress in full imperial uniform with his medals and his sword just to eat dinner with his two companions. He was trying to maintain the illusion of the court. He was trying to keep the emperor alive through ritual. But the rituals rang hollow in the silence of the island. The rats infested the house. The damp rotted the curtains, and the silence rotted his mind. The psychological decomposition of Napoleon was rapid and horrifying. He began to obsess over microscopic slights. He wrote long, furious letters about the quality of the coffee or the lack of respect from a junior officer. He fell into a deep paranoia. He believed the British were poisoning his wine. He believed they were reading his thoughts. This is a common symptom of solitary confinement. When the brain lacks social input, it begins to hallucinate threats. It begins to eat itself. His body followed his mind. He developed ulcers. He developed stomach cancer. The stress of social death ate him from the inside out. He would stand on the cliffs of Saint Helena and stare at the ocean for hours, waiting for a ship that would never come. He was starving for the narcissistic supply that had fed him for 20 years. Without the admiration of the crowd, Napoleon ceased to exist. He became a ghost, haunting his own life. He died 6 years later. Not from a bullet, not from a sword, but from the crushing weight of irrelevance. The British had proven a dark truth. You don't need to kill a man to destroy him. You just need to stop looking at him. You just need to turn your back. Napoleon proved that even the strongest ego in the world cannot survive in a vacuum. Status is a social currency. It has no value if there is no market to spend it in. On Saint Helena, Napoleon was a billionaire in a world without money, and he died a bankrupt beggar. This mechanism is what makes ostracism the ultimate tool of social control. The tribe uses it to enforce conformity. If you step out of line, if you speak the wrong opinion, if you wear the wrong clothes, the tribe looks away. They withdraw the opioid supply. You feel the pain, you feel the cold, and your brain screams, "Fix it! Apologize! Conform!" This is why you are afraid to speak your mind. You are not afraid of being wrong, you are afraid of being alone. This is the spiral of silence. We silence our true selves to protect our social avatars. We become actors in a play written by the mob. We trade our authenticity for safety. But the safety is an illusion, because the mob is fickle. The mob needs fresh blood to maintain its cohesion. The mechanism of the scapegoat requires a victim. Today you are the hunter. Tomorrow you are the prey. The circle of light is shrinking, and you are standing on the edge. The terror of ostracism has mutated in the 21st century. It used to be that if you were exiled, you could walk to the next village and start over. You could reinvent yourself. But the internet has destroyed the next village. The internet is one global village, and it has a perfect memory. If you are marked with the scarlet letter today, there is nowhere to run. The digital footprint follows you. This creates a state of chronic low-level anxiety that permeates modern life. We are living in a digital panopticon. A panopticon is a prison where the prisoners can be watched at any moment, but they never know when. Because they might be watched, they must behave as if they are always being watched. Social media has turned the entire world into this prison. We are constantly policing our speech and our thoughts because we are terrified of the social death. We are terrified of being Napoleon on the rock. And the technology companies know this. They have weaponized your evolutionary biology to keep you addicted to their platforms. The like button is not a design feature. It is a Skinner box. B.F. Skinner showed that if you give a rat a pellet of food, every time it presses a lever, it gets bored. But if you give the pellet randomly sometimes yes, sometimes no, the rat becomes addicted. It will press the lever until it dies of exhaustion. This is variable reward reinforcement. When you post a photo, you don't know if you will get 10 likes or 100. You don't know if you will be praised or ignored. This uncertainty triggers the dopamine system. You are gambling with your social status every time you post. And when the likes don't come, you feel the crash. You feel the ostracism. You check the phone again. Is it broken? Did they see it? Do they hate me? This is the phantom vibration syndrome. Your body is so desperate for connection that it hallucinates the phone buzzing in your pocket. You are a lab rat pressing the lever, begging for the pellet of validation. This environment creates a fragile psyche. We have raised a generation that has never experienced true solitude. They have never been alone with their thoughts, without a screen. As a result, they have no psychological immune system. When real rejection happens, a breakup, a firing, a cancellation, they collapse. They do not have the internal structures to support their own weight. They are exoskeletal beings. Their support comes from the outside. Crush the shell, and the creature dies. To survive in this world, you must build an endoskeleton. You must build a spine of steel that does not require the support of the crowd. You must learn the counter-protocol. You must learn how to convert the lead of loneliness into the gold of solitude. The first step of the counter-protocol is the identity decoupling. Most people fuse their identity with their social standing. I am a manager, I am a husband, I am popular. These are fragile identities because they depend on the cooperation of others. If you lose your job, you lose yourself. If your wife leaves, you lose yourself. You must build a core identity that is independent of your social rank. This is the concept of the inner citadel from Stoicism. Imagine your mind as a fortress. Outside the walls, there is the noise of the crowd, the praise, the insults, the likes, and the blocks. Inside the walls, there is your reason, your values, and your skills. The crowd can storm the outer walls. They can burn your reputation. They can exile you to Saint Helena. But they cannot enter the keep unless you open the gate. You must practice spending time in the keep. You must practice being alone without a phone, without a podcast, without a book. Just you and your thoughts. This is voluntary hardship. Just as you lift weights to prepare your muscles for heavy loads, you must lift silence to prepare your mind for isolation. If you cannot stand to be alone with your thoughts, why should anyone else want to be alone with them? You must become your own best company. When you enjoy your own company, you become immune to the threat of ostracism, because the worst thing they can do is leave you alone with your favorite person. The second step is the parasocial hack. Your brain is easy to trick. It cannot distinguish between a real tribe and a simulated tribe. This is why we feel like we know the characters in a TV show. This is why we cry when a fictional character dies. You can use this glitch to your advantage. If your real-life environment is toxic, or if you are currently isolated, do not sit in silence. Silence kills. Curate a digital council. Listen to long-form conversations with people you respect. Read biographies of great men and women. When you read Marcus Aurelius, you are hanging out with a Roman emperor. When you listen to a brilliant thinker, you are sitting around their campfire. Your brain registers this as social connection. It lowers the cortisol. It quiets the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. You are not alone. You are in conversation with the greatest minds in history. This is not escapism. This is tribe selection. You are choosing a tribe of dead giants over a tribe of living idiots. This gives you the strength to endure the physical isolation until you can find a real tribe that aligns with your values. The third step is the mission anchor. Napoleon died because his mission was empire. An empire requires other people. When the people were taken away, he had no mission. You must anchor your purpose to something that does not require permission. If your mission is to be famous, you are a slave. If your mission is to write a book, or to build a body, or to master a skill, you are free. You can write in prison. You can train in exile. You can master a skill in the dark. When you have a mission, anchor ostracism becomes an opportunity. It becomes time on target. When they ignore you, they are giving you a gift. They are giving you the time to sharpen your blade. While they are wasting time signaling to each other at the party, you are in the forge. You are becoming dangerous. And the irony is that when you stop needing the tribe will become obsessed with you. Because people are drawn to autonomy like moths to a flame. They want to be around the person who doesn't need them. But here is the warning. The re-entry shock. If you master this protocol, if you become comfortable in the dark, you will change. You will become colder. You will become harder. And when you finally return to the circle, because humans always return to the circle, you will find that you no longer fit. You will see their social games as petty. You will see their gossip as noise. You will be in the tribe, but not of the tribe. This is the price of freedom. You will never again feel that warm, fuzzy blanket of unconscious belonging. You will always be a bit of a stranger, but you will be a stranger who is not afraid. You will be a stranger who knows that if they kick you out again, you will simply walk back into the Andra light, your own fire, and keep working. The story of Napoleon teaches us that status is a drug and withdrawal is fatal. But the story of the mystic, the monk, and the stoic teaches us that solitude is a superpower. The crowd is a lie. The crowd is a collection of scared animals huddled together for warmth. Do not be afraid of the cold. The cold clarifies. The cold strengthens. The cold kills the weak parts of you so that the strong parts can survive. You were born alone, and you will die alone. The time in between is an illusion of togetherness. Learn to love the bookends of your life. Learn to love the silence. This is Yes, stop begging for a seat at their table. Build your own house.